What is going on, guys? This is Dan here, and today I'm going to be explaining what an agent is. So I think everyone by this stage and their grandmother have heard about agents because everyone is talking about them and how they're going to revolutionize the world, and every business needs a bajillion agents to do everything. But understanding what they actually are is still very confusing. Even explaining what they are can be really confusing for people. So I'm going to try to clarify that in this video. There are three things that make up an agent. There's the environment, which is where the agent lives. Then there's actions, which are what can the agent do based on the environment that it has. And then there's goals, or usually it's just a goal. And this could be something like getting the highest score, answering a question, whatever it is, but it has a goal, right? So there's three different things. There's the environment, then there's the action that it chooses to do, and then there's goals. In 2013, DeepMind, they created an agent that could play Atari video games. You can see that on the side over here. So this is it playing Breakout. And in this situation, we had the environment, which was the pixels on the screen, as well as the score and where the paddle was, where the ball was, etc. It was reading that. That was the environment. That was the place it was living in. Then you had action. So in this case, we just had go left or go right. But in some video games that it was playing, it had things like go up, go down, or shoot. And the goal for this agent was to get the highest score possible. Another agent by DeepMind was AlphaGo, which was able to beat the world's best Go player. And in this case, it had an environment which was the game board. And the actions that it had was to be able to put one of its colored stones on a certain place or a legal position on the game board. And its goal was to win the match. So when we talk about large language models and we're talking about agents or the agents that we're using today, the same thing applies. You have an environment, actions, and goals. But in this case, the environment isn't a game board or a virtual environment. For these models, the environment is the context window. And what that is all of the input tokens that you feed into the model. So that is your chat window, that is the files that you load up through skills, maybe your Claude.md, and it's also everything that the model has searched for in the past. If it's done, for example, a web search, or it's gone through your CRM and pulled information out, that is its environment. And the action that it would take next based off of its environment or context window is a list of tools that you've given it in order for it to do the next thing, whether that is a web search, maybe it's using an MCP to connect to your Google Drive or something, or maybe it's reading a skill that it needs in order to accomplish the task more effectively. And the goal in this case is just whatever question you've asked it, whatever thing you've asked it to do. So how is it possible for a large language model to do this? Because when we typically hear about them, we think, a lot of people have heard that they're just next token predictors. So you just put in input tokens and then you just get tokens out. Or maybe people just think of them as you put in a prompt and then you get an answer. But what's actually happening inside these models is you'll give them a prompt, which can be some kind of goal that they want to try to accomplish. And the large language model, what it does is it doesn't just output text in the way that we think of text. What it can actually do is it can output like structured text, or in this case, what we would call a JSON structure. And this is basically this structure over here. So this is just text, right? It's just that it's in a structured way that we can then take that information and then call different functions that can perform other tasks like searching the web or connecting to your CRM or whatever it is. So in this case, if I said something like, I want to find flights to Vietnam, then the large language model is like, okay, I think I need to use a search tool. So what he'll do is he'll actually output text that looks like this. He'll say something like tool, web search, and then query, flights to Vietnam. And it kind of looks like this. It's structured. It's structured output. And then after that, this could be, for example, the instructions that would call a function that would search Google for him. And then he would get this response. And after that, this response would get fed back into the large language model as context. So what that means is that his environment went from a little question to then having this block of text that had all the information about the flight. So then after that, he can decide, okay, my next action, should it be to search for more flights or should it be to respond to the user? So in this case, he could say, okay, the tool I want to use is respond to user. So what he would do is he would output structured information just like this, but instead of the tool being web search, it would say respond to user. And then he would put in his response at the bottom over there. And that's how he would then start answering you back about what his answer to the goal was. So the agent's flow typically looks something like this when it comes to large language models, is that you have the large language model, it looks at what context it currently has, and after that, it decides on an action. And the action is whatever you give it. So for example, if you build custom tools to connect to your custom systems, then that will be part of the action that it decides to take. In this case, we have things like searching the web, writing email, respond to user. MCPs are also in here as well. MCPs are just a unified way of writing tools for large language models. So they are basically just giving the agent more actions that it can take in order to accomplish a task. So what will happen is the large language model will decide, okay, based on the information I've got, I need to take some action, right? He's going to take the action. And then this is task done, this question, that is generally speaking another large language model that's going to assess, do I have enough information here? Is the task actually done? And if it's not done, then he's going to go back into here and he's going to say, okay, what tool do I need? He's going to go and he's going to use the action one again. Maybe that's another web search. Maybe that's, writing an email. Maybe that's, accessing your CRM, whatever it is, right? And he's going to basically go in this loop constantly until eventually the task is going to be done, or, the amount of tries that he has to accomplish this is going to hit some sort of limit, right? Because some tasks won't be able to be accomplished. And if you don't have a way for him to sort of exit or give up, then he's just going to do this forever. So eventually he's going to say, okay, the task is done. And then he's going to respond to the user, either, hey, I did it, I didn't do it, here's the results. And that's basically how agents work. So agents are getting super impressive in 2026. As an example, you could ask an agent to every single Friday log into QuickBooks and process all of your invoices for your business. And because of the fact that, he's able to connect to all these different tools or actions, then he's able to do things like, for example, read an SOP that you built for him to perform this task. He can go through those instructions and then he can call the tools or the actions, such as logging into QuickBooks and performing certain functions that he needs in order to process invoices. He can also, perform actions that allow him to write files to your computer. So he could do this task and then he could create a report about what he's done and leave it on your computer for you. He can also access tools that allows him to run a scheduler, which means that every single Friday he could boot up and perform the exact same task, on repeat anytime he wants. And because of that, these days, this is super duper powerful because it means that these agents can automate a humongous amount of the things that you need to do inside of your business. And this is really the reason why agents are being talked about so much. Is it's not hype. Like, they have a lot of power. The power of the reasoning part of the agent, the part which is deciding what action to take, is extremely good. And then the connections that we can create to all the different systems are all becoming very, very easy relative to where they were many years ago. So that combination is making agents extremely powerful, and it's definitely something that you need to understand, be aware of, and think about implementing inside of your business. If you need some help implementing agents inside your business, or you want to just understand exactly how AI can be useful for you, there's going to be a link in the description where you can book a call with me and we can have a chat. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.